This is a stonefly nymph from Fling Puterbaugh's book, The Basic Manual of Fly Tying. I'm tying it on a number 14 bent shank nymph hook. It's a fine wire hook, really intended for dry flies. So I am putting some weighted wire on it. Fling and Puterbaugh don't weight their stonefly nymph, but Kaufman does, and so I think I'm okay with adding some weight to this fly. I'm tying it in olive. The example that Fling and Puterbaugh have is actually a Golden Stonefly Nymph, where they use yellow yarn for the body. I'm going to be doing this all in olives and brown. Actually, the legs I'm going to be tying with dark blue dun. So just some thread over that wire to hold it in place. I'm going to dub in just a little tiny dab of dark olive back here over the hook barb, or where the hook barb was. That will be a little lump to tie in the tail against, and I'm using moose mane for the tail. So I'll put one on the far side of my hook and get that tied in. Try to get it placed properly without letting it roll too far back. And then I'll tie another one of those moose manes on the front side of the hook. Same length, and that little dubbing will help to separate them and create that V shape back here for that nymph tail. And I can clip out the extra mane, and I'll take my thread up a little ways up the shank, where I am going to tie in a strand of olive wool. This is crewel wool, a couple strands, and then I'm also going to tie in for the rib a strand of Peacock herl quill. So I've stripped all of the fibers off that Peacock herl, and I'll tie these both back in here to where my little bump is. Bring my thread back up about halfway, and then wrap first the yarn to create the body. So again, Fling and Puterbaugh use a yellow yarn here, and I'm using an olive. And one of the principles, I guess, when you're tying your fly is to, if you have stoneflies where you fish, that would be a suitable fly to tie, but you want to look and see what your hatch, right? Match the hatch. So just halfway up the shank, tie that off. We need a good half a shank here for the thorax. So clip that out, and then I'll wrap this herl quill Give me the segmented look up the body. And it's also kind of a flat quill, so it'll lay nice against the body. And tie that off. And clip that out. The wing casing on this fly is raffia, and all I have is tan raffia. So I've cut a strip of that and colored it brown. Again, whatever color you think is going to be best to match your hatch. So you can do it black, you can do it olive, you could do it brown, or you can do it tan or off-white. This particular raffia came in a spool that's really more like a rope, and it's very wide, and so I've had to cut strips, color this one with a marker, and then I have calls for a soft hackle. So I have this dark dun soft hackle that will become the legs, and I want it to be sized for the hook. So I've trimmed the end of that hackle for tie-in purposes. That will get palmered, and I'm tying it with the shiny side out so that when I palmer it, hopefully the fibers will bend back towards the hook bend. And then the thorax itself is dubbing, and so since I'm doing an olive fly, I'm going to do olive body for the thorax. Leave plenty of room out here for tying off that raffia, as well as tying in a head. Then I'll grab that hackle feather with my pliers and just palmer. 3 wraps is plenty. Palmer that through the body. And tie that off. Catch it in, tie it off. Once I've got the 3 wraps over the top, I can let go of the pliers and then pull back on that stem and wrap underneath of it, tie it in, and then I clip out that stem. Now I'm going to take all this hackle fibers and push down on them so that they become the legs on the nymph, and then pull that raffia up over the top, and I'm going to tie in the raffia on the top of the hook shank, try to keep it on top to create the wing casing. Then I'm going to pull the raffia back up using a dubbing tool, fold it over, hold that, and then wrap up over the top of that again. Tie that in. Then I can pull back up on that raffia and clip out all this extra. And then I'll wrap the head. Try to cover up that raffia end. And put a whip finish on that. Kaufman says that you only need to put a couple of half hitches on because you're going to be putting varnish or something on it. I use diluted goop as my head cement, so I just dip a needle in my jar and get a drop on my needle, and then I can just drop that on the head, and that cements in, that dries clear. So then a Stonefly Nymph from Fling Puterbaugh's book, The Basic Manual of Fly Tying.